This is an extremely serious problem that the politicians desperately need to focus on, to become aware of, to have their consciousness raised about, so that they start thinking hard about the issue and start doing something about it before whole populations are decimated. This flyer states that there are two broad categories of solutions to this problem. One is military, that is a sex war, in which masculine soldiers go out into the streets and simply shoot the feminazi bitches, removing their power and men-fairing the gender laws so that men are prepared to be fathers again. Millions of men would love to have kids, but don't dare to in today's hated, fluffy feminist hypocrite-controlled divorce court system. Young men see these feminazis as misandrist, male-dumping, obese and repulsive, so avoid the risk of being crucified by them by avoiding marriage and paternity. Young women now are becoming increasingly panicky and alarmed as they notice that the quality men with whom they particularly want to mate are refusing to give them their sperm, rejecting paternity, only pumping and dumping women to get the sex, but utterly shying away from weddings and births. When populations are threatened with their very survival, they go to war. They become motivated enough to kill their enemies in large numbers, which is characteristic of war. That is the nature of war, that is organized mass killing of one group by another. There's growing talk amongst masculist theorists of a sex war to exterminate the third wave feminists, the hated fluffy feminist hypocrites who are making the lives of millions of men, namely divorcing fathers, such a misery. The casualty rate of men in the divorce courts, that is 1 in 4 fathers, in capital letters, is much higher than in a major war. Let that sink in. With so many men's lives destroyed at the hands of these feminazi vermin, you understand the growing hatred of the masculists towards them. If things don't change, masculist soldiers will kill millions of feminazis and assassinate the gender politicians who created these deeply misandrous gender laws in the first place. For example, in the divorce courts, no para, that's paternity rejection right, which is the most blatant form of sexual discrimination that exists, and it's not against women, but against men. A piece of legislation that the fluffy feminists, in all their profound hypocrisy, fight tooth and nail because bringing in the para will force women to grow up, to fip up, to take responsibility for their own lives, instead of living off the money of a stupid, gullible, brainwashed man-slave. Being forced by masculists to adultify terrifies fluffies and fluffy feminists. This threat coming from the masculists scares the shit out of fluffy feminists who want the best of both worlds. That is, they want equal legal rights with men in the parliaments, but reject equal obligations to fip up. Having to become full adults terrifies fluffies and fluffy feminists. Fortunately, men have the financial power to force women to fip up. Because most men are fips. We are socialized to be fips and even evolved to be fips. So when men decide en masse to reject being man-slaves, fluffies are fucked in the sense that they will be forced to fip up or starve. If the gender laws are not soon men-fed, then there may be a sex war where not only will the gender politicians be assassinated, but thousands of feminazi, fluffy feminist divorce court lawyers and judges will be murdered as casualties, as enemies of the masculist soldiers, to be targeted for killing, to be treated as enemies, to be exterminated for the greater good of the men-fairing, gender laws, so that men are prepared to be fathers again. Let me spell this out, especially to the politicians. If the gender laws are not soon men-fed, then we will wipe ourselves out. The hated fluffy feminist hypocrites have taken over the divorce courts and made divorce so toxic for men that 2/3 of men are now rejecting marriage and paternity, thus wiping out whole populations. The masses see these hated fluffy feminists as indirect genociders who are responsible for the population crash, so have to be stopped. One way to stop them is to kill them. The second main category of methods to mainfare the gender laws is to destroy belief in third-wave feminist ideas by crushing them, making them unbelievable, seen as invalid, not true, ridiculous. This is where the masculist scientists play a role, by refuting the main claims of the third-wave feminists. Masculists have no problem with second-wave feminists who pushed for equal rights for women. For example, equal pay for equal work, equal right to enter the professions, guilt-free divorce, the MARA, that is maternity rejection right, aka abortion right, etc. Masculists see giving women equal rights as essential prerequisites for the effective fipping of women, which is one of the major political goals of the masculists. That is, the creation of a FIP society in which girls are socialized by parents and educated by teachers and professors to become responsible FIPs, not expecting fluffy style to be parasites of men's money. Young girls who do become fluffies in the near future will be spat at by their male classmates at high school when there's a masculist group in every high school and college campus. Young women will be powerfully morally pressured to fip up or not get a boyfriend, not have a baby, because no man will be prepared to be fluffied, to be parasited upon by her. Young men need to be taught the basics of masculine ideas so that society as a whole learns to reject many of the core ideas of the third-wave feminists, so that belief in third-wave feminism dies out, thus making the mainfaring of the gender laws much easier for the gender politicians to legislate. This is the end of part 1.